Time to look at some weird cases with square root inequalities. The weird cases come with negative numbers. So if you have a square root that's greater than a negative number or a square root that's less than a negative number, that's where the strange cases are. So let's start with if you have a square root that is greater than a negative number. Well, generally speaking, we know that square roots are positive, so a positive is always bigger than a negative number. You just have to figure out what numbers are going to make this positive. So if I look at a specific example, let's say I have square root of x minus 7 is greater than negative 3. Well, positive is always bigger than negative. So I just need to figure out what are the possible values for x. So in this case, all I need to do is look at my domain restriction. So my domain, I know that x minus 7 has to be greater than or equal to 0. So x has to be greater than or equal to 7. And if you go through and you actually end up solving this, you're going to end up with a strange answer. You're going to get x is greater than 16. But that's not actually the answer. Because if I were to plug in something less than that, let's say I were to plug in even just 11. If I did 11 minus 7, that gives me 4. Square root of 4 is 2. 2 is greater than negative 3. So when you have a square root that's greater than a negative number, going through and solving it is not going to give you your answer. It's your domain that's going to actually give you what your answer is. Let's look at the other case. If I look at square root is less than a negative number. So if a square root is less than a negative number, let's take the same basic equation, but we'll flip the sign. Square root of x minus 7 is less than negative 3. Well, if I think about what this equation is saying, again, square root of a number is always positive like this. So a positive number is less than a negative number. Can a positive number ever be less than a negative number? No, it can't. So from right here, I can say, oh, this has no solution. And if you were to go through and solve, you would get x is less than 16. And if you plugged in something less than 16, let's say 11 again, 11 minus 7 is 4, square root of 4 is 2. 2 is not less than negative 3. So those are all extraneous solutions and they don't actually work. So be careful about these two special cases. They have to deal with when you have a square root is less than a negative number or a square root is greater than a negative number.